The autumn rain drummed against the windows of the Riverside Community Center as Maya Chen Morrison sat alone at table 12, watching her half-siblings laugh and share stories just 3 tables away. The annual Morrison family reunion was in full swing, but as always, Maya felt like she was watching through glass, present, but not really belonging. "Maya, honey, could you help me with the dessert table?" Her stepmother, Patricia, approached with that practiced smile that never quite reached her eyes. At 62, Patricia had perfected the art of polite inclusion while maintaining emotional distance. "Of course," Maya replied, pushing back her chair. At 28, she had learned to accept these small roles: the helper, the observer, the one who cleaned up while others celebrated. As she arranged the apple pies and chocolate cakes, Maya couldn't help but overhear the conversation happening behind her. Her half-brother Derek, 31, and already graying at the temples like their father, was holding court with their sister Amanda and cousin Jake. "I'm telling you, Dad's been talking more about the business succession," Derek said, his voice carrying that confident tone Maya had grown to resent. "He knows it needs to stay in the family, the real family." Amanda, 29 and sharp, as her designer heels, nodded knowingly. "Exactly. I mean, we can't have outsiders making decisions about Morrison Construction. 3 generations of blood, sweat, and tears went into building that company." "Speaking of outsiders," Jake whispered, but not quietly enough. "Is Maya still planning to stick around for the whole weekend? It's just, awkward." Maya's hands stilled on the dessert plates. The familiar knot formed in her stomach. That mixture of hurt and anger she'd carried since childhood. She'd been part of this family for 23 years. Ever. Since her mother married Robert Morrison when Maya was 5. But apparently, marriage certificates and shared Christmases meant nothing when it came to bloodlines. "She's not going anywhere," Patricia's voice cut through the conversation, though Maya noticed the slight edge of irritation. "Maya is family, and that's final." The group fell silent, and Maya felt their eyes on her back. She continued arranging desserts, her cheeks burning with embarrassment. This was how it always went. Patricia defending her in public while somehow making Maya feel like a burden in private. "Of course she is," Derek said smoothly, but Maya caught the glance he exchanged with Amanda. "We're just saying that when it comes to business decisions, experience matters. Maya's got her graphic design thing, which is great, but she doesn't understand construction like we do." Maya turned around, finally facing them. "My graphic design thing happens to be a successful freelance business, Derek, and I've been around Morrison Construction my entire adult life. I probably know more about the company's marketing and client relations than you think." Derek's smile was condescending. "Sure, Maya, but there's a difference between knowing about something and being born into it. Dad always says blood runs deeper than water." The words hit Maya like a physical blow. She'd heard variations of this her entire life, subtle reminders that she was different, that she didn't quite belong, that she was tolerated rather than truly accepted. "Blood doesn't always determine family," Maya said quietly, but her voice carried across the room. Several conversations stopped. "Sometimes the people who choose to love you matter more than the ones who share your DNA." An uncomfortable silence settled over the reunion. Maya could feel dozens of eyes on her, some sympathetic, others clearly uncomfortable with the family drama playing out in public. Robert Morrison, 73 and still commanding despite his recent health scares, appeared at Maya's side. His weathered hand landed gently on her shoulder. "Maya's right," he said, his voice carrying the authority that had built a construction empire. "Family isn't just about blood. It's about loyalty, commitment, and love. Maya's been my daughter for 23 years, and she'll be my daughter until I draw my last breath." Maya felt tears prick her eyes. This was why she kept coming back, kept subjecting herself to the whispers and sideways glances. Robert had never made her feel like anything less than his daughter. He was the steady presence who taught her how to drive, walked her to her first day of high school when her mother was working, and proudly displayed her college graduation photo in his office. "Thanks, Dad," she whispered, using the title that still felt both natural and rebellious. Derek's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, but he recovered quickly. "Of course, Dad. We all love Maya. I was just talking about business experience, that's all." Robert's blue eyes, still sharp despite his age, studied his son. "Business experience comes with time and opportunity, Derek. But character, that's something you're born with or you're not." The rebuke was gentle, but unmistakable. Derek's face flushed, and Amanda quickly changed the subject to her latest real estate ventures. But Maya caught the look that passed between the siblings, a look that promised this conversation was far from over. Later that evening, Maya sat on the back porch of her childhood home, cradling a cup of tea and listening to the familiar sounds of the suburban Chicago neighborhood where she'd grown up. The Morrison house was a sprawling colonial that Robert had built himself in the early days of his company, a testament to both his skill and his success. "Mind if I join you?" Maya looked up to find Robert settling into the chair beside her, moving more slowly than she remembered. His recent heart attack had aged him, adding new lines to his face and a fragility to his movements that worried her. "Couldn't sleep either?" she asked. He chuckled, the sound warm in the cool night air. "At my age, sleep is more of a suggestion than a requirement. Besides, I wanted to talk to you about today." Maya's stomach tightened. "Dad, you don't need to." "Yes, I do." His voice was firm but kind. "Maya, I know this family hasn't always been easy for you. I know there have been times when you felt like an outsider, and I'm sorry for that." "It's not your fault," Maya said quickly. "You've always made me feel wanted, but I should have done more to make sure everyone else did too." Robert reached over and took her hand, his calloused fingers gentle against hers. "You know, when your mother and I got married, I made her a promise. I promised I would love you, like my own daughter, not just as a stepfather, but as a real father. And I've kept that promise every single day." Tears spilled down Maya's cheeks. "I know you have. You've been the best father I could have asked for. You've been the daughter I always dreamed of," Robert replied. "Strong, independent, kind-hearted. You remind me so much of your mother when she was your age." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching fireflies dance in the darkness. Finally, Robert spoke again. "Maya, I want you to know that no matter what happens, no matter what anyone says, you are my daughter. You are a Morrison, and nothing will ever change that." Something in his tone made Maya look at him more closely. There was an intensity in his eyes, a weight to his words that seemed to carry more meaning than the conversation warranted. "Dad, are you okay? I mean, really okay?" Robert smiled, but Maya caught the shadow that crossed his features. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just an old man thinking about legacy and what really matters." "You're not that old," Maya protested, though his recent health scare had reminded them all that he wasn't invincible. "Old enough to know that time is precious?" Robert said, "and old enough to want to make sure the people I love know exactly where they stand." As they said goodnight and headed inside, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that her father was trying to tell her something important. But exhausted from the emotional roller coaster of the reunion, she pushed the thought aside and focused on getting through the rest of the weekend. The next morning brought fresh challenges. Maya woke to find Derek and Amanda huddled over coffee in the kitchen, their conversation stopping abruptly when she entered. "Morning," Maya said, pouring herself coffee and trying to ignore the obvious tension. "Maya," Amanda said with false brightness, "we were just talking about Dad's birthday next month. We're thinking of throwing him a big party, maybe at the country club." "That sounds nice," Maya replied carefully. "What can I do to help?" Derek, and Amanda exchanged a look. Well, Derek said slowly, we were thinking it might be better to keep it small. Family only, you know? Dad's been so tired lately. The exclusion was subtle but unmistakable. Maya felt the familiar sting of rejection, but this time, anger rose alongside the hurt. I am family, she said quietly. Of course you are, Amanda said quickly. It's just, well, you know how these things are. The guest list gets complicated, and we want to make sure Dad doesn't get overwhelmed. Maya stared at them, seeing the truth behind their carefully chosen words. They were planning to celebrate their father's birthday without her, and they were asking her to accept it gracefully. I think Dad should decide who he wants at his birthday party, Maya said, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. Derek's facade slipped slightly. Maya, look, we're not trying to hurt your feelings, but let's be realistic here. Dad's getting older, and eventually, he's going to need to make some difficult decisions about the business, about his will, about his legacy. It's better if we start preparing for those realities now. What are you saying exactly? Amanda leaned forward, her voice taking on a patronizing tone Maya had learned to hate. We're saying that maybe it's time for you to think about your own future, independent of Dad's money or the family business. You're talented, Maya. You could make your own way without relying on this. She gestured vaguely around the kitchen. The implication was clear. Maya was a gold digger, a hanger-on, someone who needed to be managed and contained before she could make claims on the Morrison fortune. Maya set down her coffee cup with deliberate care. You think I'm here for Dad's money. We think you deserve to build your own life, Derek said smoothly, without the complications of family business and inheritance expectations. Maya looked at these two people she'd grown up with, shared holidays, called her siblings for over 2 decades. In their eyes, she saw not love or even basic respect, but calculation. They had already written her out of their future, already divided up their father's legacy among themselves. You know what? Maya said, standing up. You're absolutely right. I should build my own life. And maybe that starts with spending less time trying to fit into a family that doesn't really want me here. She walked out of the kitchen, leaving Derek and Amanda in stunned silence. But as she climbed the stairs to pack her things, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that she was playing right into their hands. 2 hours later, Maya was loading her suitcase into her Honda Civic when Robert appeared in the driveway. Leaving early? He asked, concern evident in his voice. Maya forced a smile. Just have some work to catch up on. You know how freelance life is. Robert studied her face, and Maya knew he could see through her excuse. Maya, whatever Derek and Amanda said, it's fine, Dad. Really, they're not wrong. I do need to focus on my own life. My children can be idiots sometimes, Robert said bluntly. All of them. But that doesn't mean they speak for me. Maya hugged him tightly, breathing in the familiar scent of his aftershave and sawdust that never quite washed out of his clothes. I love you, Dad. That's never going to change. I love you too, sweetheart. More than you know. As Maya drove away from the house, she caught a glimpse of Derek and Amanda watching from the living room window. They looked satisfied, as if they'd successfully solved a problem. But Maya was done being a problem to solve. For the first time in her life, she was going to stop trying to prove she belonged and start building something that was entirely her own. She had no idea that everything was about to change in ways none of them could imagine. 3 weeks after the reunion, Maya was deep in work at her downtown Chicago apartment when her phone rang. The caller ID showed Patricia's name, and Maya hesitated before answering. Calls from her stepmother were usually brief and centered around family obligations or requests for help. Hello, Patricia. Maya, honey, I need you to come home. Patricia's voice was strained, lacking its usual controlled composure. "It's your father. He's in the hospital." Maya's heart dropped. "What happened? Is he okay?" "Another heart attack. The doctors say he's stable, but..." Patricia's voice broke slightly. "It was close, Maya. Really close." "I'm on my way," Maya said, already grabbing her keys and purse. "Which hospital?" "Northwestern Memorial." "Maya, the whole family's here. Derek and Amanda, all the cousins. We're in the cardiac ICU waiting room." The drive to the hospital felt endless, even though Maya knew she was speeding. Chicago traffic blurred past her windows as her mind raced with memories of Robert teaching her to throw a baseball in the backyard, helping her with algebra homework, and proudly introducing her as "my daughter Maya" to his business associates. When Maya arrived at the hospital, she found the waiting room filled with Morrisons. The extended family had gathered: aunts, uncles, cousins, and family friends who'd known Robert for decades. In the center of it all sat Patricia, looking smaller and more fragile than Maya had ever seen her. Maya. Patricia stood and embraced her, and for the first time in years, the hug felt genuine. "Thank God you're here." "How is he?" Maya asked, scanning the room. Derek and Amanda sat nearby with their spouses, their faces etched with worry that seemed to transcend their usual political calculations. "He's awake and talking," Patricia said. "The doctors say the next 48 hours are critical, but his heart is responding well to treatment. Can I see him?" "Family only, 2 at a time," a nurse interjected. "Are you immediate family?" Before Maya could answer, Derek stood up. "She's his stepdaughter," he said, his tone neutral but somehow managing to emphasize the step. Maya felt the familiar sting, but Patricia surprised her by speaking up firmly. "She's his daughter, period. Maya has just as much right to see him as anyone else here." The nurse nodded. "Of course. Who would like to go in first?" "Maya should go," Patricia said, ignoring the surprised looks from other family members. "She drove the farthest to get here." As Maya followed the nurse down the sterile hospital corridor, she could hear whispered conversations starting behind her. She pushed them out of her mind and focused on preparing herself for what she might see. Robert looked smaller in the hospital bed, connected to monitors and IVs that beeped and hummed around him. But his eyes were alert, and when he saw Maya, his face lit up with genuine joy. "There's my girl," he said, his voice weaker than usual but still warm. Maya rushed to his side, taking his hand carefully. "Dad, you scared us all." "Scared myself too," Robert admitted. "Maya, I'm glad you're here. There are things I need to tell you, things I should have said years ago." "You can tell me anything, Dad. But right now, you need to focus on getting better." Robert's grip on her hand tightened slightly. "Maya, listen to me. You are the most important thing in my life. You and your mother. You saved me. When I married your mom, I was a broken man who didn't know how to be happy anymore. You two taught me how to love again." Maya felt tears streaming down her face. "Dad, you don't need to..." "Yes, I do. Because I'm not sure how much time I have left. And there are things you need to know." Robert's eyes were intense, urgent. "Maya, you are my daughter in every way that matters. But you're also my daughter in ways that might surprise you." Before Maya could ask what he meant, Derek and Amanda appeared in the doorway. "Dad?" Amanda's voice was small, vulnerable in a way Maya rarely heard. "Can we come in?" Robert nodded, and his other 2 children approached the bed. For a moment, the 3 siblings stood together around their father, united in their fear of losing him. "I'm sorry," Derek said suddenly, his voice thick with emotion. "Dad, I know I haven't always been the son you wanted me to be. I've been focused on the wrong things. worried about the wrong things. "Me too," Amanda whispered. "I've been so worried about proving myself, about securing my place, that I forgot what family really means." Robert looked at his 3 children, biological and chosen, and managed a weak smile. "You're all my legacy, all 3 of you, and I need you to take care of each other when I'm gone." "You're not going anywhere," Maya said firmly. "You're too stubborn to die in a hospital bed." Robert laughed, which set off a coughing fit that had all 3 of his children reaching for him in alarm. When it subsided, he looked at them seriously. "I need to talk to my lawyer," he said. "There are things I need to make sure are in order." "Dad, don't talk like that," Derek protested. "I'm not being morbid, son. I'm being practical. This attack was a warning, and I need to make sure everything is taken care of. For all of you." Over the next few days, as Robert slowly recovered, the family dynamics shifted in subtle but noticeable ways. Derek and Amanda seemed genuinely shaken by how close they'd come to losing their father, and they made tentative efforts to include Maya in family discussions. But Maya also noticed other changes, whispered conversations that stopped when she entered a room, phone calls that Derek and Amanda took in private, the way some of the extended family members looked at her with something between pity and calculation. It came to a head on Robert's 4th day in the hospital. Maya had arrived early to bring him his favorite breakfast sandwich from a deli downtown when she overheard Derek and Amanda talking to their Uncle Frank in the hallway. "I'm just saying, we need to be realistic about what Dad might do," Derek was saying. "His judgment might be compromised by the medications or by guilt about Maya feeling excluded." "The girl's not even blood," Uncle Frank replied bluntly. "I love Maya, don't get me wrong, but when it comes to the business and the family money, blood has to come first. 3 generations of Morrisons built that company." "Exactly," Amanda said. "And if Dad makes some emotional decision while he's recovering, it could destroy everything Grandpa and Great-Grandpa worked for." Maya felt like she'd been punched in the stomach. Here she was, worried sick about Robert's health, and his children were already planning how to protect their inheritance from her. "What if we talk to him?" Derek suggested. "Gently, you know. Remind him about family legacy and keeping the business in the bloodline." "Or what if we talk to Maya?" Amanda countered. "Made her understand that it would be better for everyone if she stepped back voluntarily. She's a good person. She wouldn't want to cause family drama." Maya had heard enough. She walked into the hospital room where Robert was sitting up, looking much better than he had in days. "Morning, sweetheart," he said, smiling at the breakfast bag in her hands. "Please tell me that's from Goldberg's Deli." "Your favorite," Maya confirmed, but her voice was tight with emotion. Robert studied her face. "What's wrong?" Maya debated whether to tell him what she'd overheard. The last thing he needed while recovering was family stress, but the hurt and anger were too fresh to hide. "Dad, can I ask you something honestly?" "Always." "Do you see me as your real daughter? Or am I just someone you've been kind to out of obligation to Mom?" Robert's expression shifted from confusion to something close to anger. "Maya Christine Morrison. Where is this coming from?" The use of her full name, including the Morrison surname she'd taken when Robert adopted her at 16, made Maya's eyes well up. "I overheard Derek and Amanda talking. They're worried you might make emotional decisions about your will because of guilt about me. They think I'm not real family because I'm not blood." Robert was quiet for a long moment, his jaw working as he processed what Maya had told him. When he finally spoke, his voice was deadly calm. "Call them in here. Now." "Dad, you don't need to." "Maya, call them in here right now." Maya stepped into the hallway where Derek, Amanda, and Uncle Frank were still talking. "Dad wants to see you," she said quietly. "All of you." When the 3 entered the room, Robert was sitting straighter in his bed, looking more like the commanding businessman Maya remembered from her childhood. "Frank, I need you to leave," Robert said without preamble. "Bob, you were just discussing my family and my business as if I were already dead. Get out of my room!" Uncle Frank looked stunned, but left without another word. Derek and Amanda stood awkwardly by the door, clearly aware that they were in trouble. "Sit down," Robert commanded, and his children complied. "Maya tells me you've been having conversations about my will and my judgment. She tells me you're concerned about me making emotional decisions about family inheritance." Derek's face flushed. "Dad, you were just what? Planning my funeral? Dividing up my assets? Deciding who gets to be part of this family?" "We love Maya," Amanda said quickly. "This isn't about her personally, isn't it?" Robert's voice was sharp. "Because from where I sit, it sounds like you've decided she's not really family, that her 23 years as my daughter don't count because she doesn't share your DNA." "Dad, that's not what we meant," Derek protested. "It's just that when it comes to the business that I built," Robert interrupted. "The business that I get to decide what happens to. The business that wouldn't exist without the love and support Maya and her mother gave me after your mother died." Maya had never heard Robert speak so harshly to Derek and Amanda. The pain in his voice was evident, and she could see her half-siblings, beginning to understand the magnitude of their mistake. "I'm going to say this once, and I want you both to listen very carefully," Robert continued. "Maya is my daughter. Not my stepdaughter, not my charity case, not someone I've been kind to out of obligation. She is my daughter, and she has been since the day I married her mother. She will always be my daughter, and she will always be your sister." Amanda was crying now, and Derek looked like he might be sick. "More than that," Robert said, his voice growing stronger. "Maya has shown more loyalty, more love, and more character than either of you have in this situation. While you've been worried about money and inheritance, she's been worried about me. While you've been planning how to exclude her, she's been here every day, bringing me food and holding my hand, and reminding me why life is worth living." Maya felt overwhelmed by her father's defense of her, but she also felt terrible about the pain this was causing Derek and Amanda. Despite their treatment of her, she didn't want to see them hurt. "Dad," she said gently, "they're scared. We all are. When someone you love almost dies, it makes you think about things you've taken for granted." Robert looked at her with such love and pride that Maya felt her heart might burst. "You see?" he said to Derek and Amanda. "Even after the way you've treated her, she's defending you. That's the kind of person Maya is. That's the kind of daughter I raised." Derek broke down then, tears streaming down his face. "Maya, I'm so sorry. You're right. I've been scared, and I've let that fear make me cruel. You are our sister, and I've been terrible to you." Amanda nodded, unable to speak through her own tears. Robert reached for Maya's hand. "There's something else you all need to know. Something I probably should have told you years ago." The room fell silent, everyone sensing that something important was about to be revealed. "Maya," Robert said gently, "you are my daughter by choice, and that has always been enough for me. But you're also my daughter by blood." Maya stared at him, not understanding. "What do you mean?" Robert took a deep breath. "Your mother and I, we knew each other before she married your biological father. We were young, and I was already engaged to Derek and Amanda's mother. When your mom told me she was pregnant, we both thought it was better if she married David and raised you as his daughter. I never stopped loving her, and I never stopped wondering about you." The room spun around Maya. "Are you saying—" "I'm saying that when your mother and I got married, it wasn't just two people falling in love. It was a family being reunited. You are my biological daughter, Maya, You always have been." Derek and Amanda stared in shock, and Maya felt like she might faint. "Why didn't you tell me?" Maya whispered. "Because I didn't want you to feel like you had to choose between me and the man who raised you for the first 5 years of your life. David was a good man, and he loved you. When he died and your mother and I found each other again, it felt like fate. But I wanted you to come to see me as your father naturally, not because of biology." Maya was crying now, overwhelmed by 28 years of wondering where she fit, only to discover she'd always belonged exactly where she was. "So when Derek and Amanda talk about bloodlines and real family," Robert continued, looking at his other 2 children, "they're talking about Maya too. She's not just my daughter by choice, she's my firstborn child." The revelation hung in the air like a bomb that had just exploded. Derek and Amanda looked stunned, processing the fact that their adopted sister was actually their biological older sister. "This doesn't change how I feel about any of you," Robert said firmly. "Derek, Amanda, you are my children, and I love you completely. But Maya has never been an outsider in this family. She's been the foundation of it." As the truth settled over the room, Maya realized that everything was about to change. Not just her understanding of herself, but the entire dynamic of the Morrison family. The question was, what would Derek and Amanda do with this information? Robert Morrison died on a Thursday morning in October, exactly 6 weeks after his revelation, in the hospital. Despite the doctor's optimism, his heart had been too damaged by years of stress and a lifetime of hard work. Maya held his hand as he passed, whispering promises that she would take care of the family they'd built together. The funeral was a testament to the life Robert had lived. Morrison construction employees, business associates, neighbors, and friends filled St. Patrick's Cathedral downtown, sharing stories of a man who had built not just buildings, but community. Maya spoke at the service, her voice strong despite her grief, talking about a father who had taught her that family was defined by love, not biology. Derek and Amanda had been different since the hospital revelation. Not perfect. Decades of family dynamics don't change overnight, but genuinely trying. Derek helped Maya with the funeral arrangements, and Amanda made sure Maya was included in every family decision. The guilt of how they'd treated her, combined with the shock of learning she was their biological sister, had fundamentally shifted something in their relationship. But Maya could also sense underlying tension. Phone calls that stopped when she entered rooms. Conversations between Derek and Amanda that seemed loaded with unspoken meaning. The extended family, uncles, aunts, and cousins, circulated around her with a mixture of newfound respect and barely concealed calculation. 3 days after the funeral, the family gathered in the conference room of Morrison Constructions, headquarters for the reading of Robert's will. The building itself was a monument to Robert's success, a gleaming office complex he'd designed and built in the heart of Chicago's business district. Maya had spent countless afternoons here as a child, doing homework in her father's office while he finished projects. Thomas Brennan, the Morrison family attorney for over 30 years, sat at the head of the polished oak table, with a thick manila folder before him. Maya took her seat between Patricia and Derek, noting how the extended family had arranged themselves around the room like shareholders at a board meeting. "Before we begin," Thomas said, adjusting his glasses, "I want everyone to understand that Robert was very specific about his wishes. He updated his will multiple times in the past year, with the final version signed just 2 weeks ago, while he was recovering in the hospital." Maya felt her stomach tighten. Had Robert changed his will after learning about Derek and Amanda's concerns? Had he tried to prevent family conflict by limiting her inheritance? "The will is quite detailed," Thomas continued, "but I'll summarize the major provisions first, then read specific sections as requested." He opened the folder and began to read in his measured legal voice. "To my beloved wife Patricia, I leave our family home, her personal trust fund of $2 million, and a lifetime seat on the Morrison Construction Board of Directors, along with my eternal gratitude for 27 years of marriage." Patricia nodded, tears streaming silently. down her face. The bequest was generous but not surprising. To my son, Derek Morrison, I leave a 25% ownership stake in Morrison Construction, contingent upon his continued active participation in the company's operations, along with the Colorado cabin and a personal trust fund of $1 million. Derek's face showed relief and confusion in equal measure. A 25% stake was substantial, but why not larger? To my daughter, Amanda Morrison Foster, I leave a 25% ownership stake in Morrison Construction, with the option to sell her shares back to the company at fair market value if she chooses not to participate in operations, along with the Florida condo and a personal trust fund of $1 million. Amanda's brow furrowed. Like Derek, she seemed to be calculating percentages and coming up short of 100%. Thomas paused and looked directly at Maya. To my daughter Maya Morrison, I leave controlling interest in Morrison Construction, 51%, ownership, along with the primary responsibility for the company's leadership succession. Additionally, Maya inherits the family's investment portfolio, valued at approximately $8 million, the downtown Chicago office building that houses our headquarters, and Robert Morrison's personal art collection. The room erupted in shocked murmurs. Maya felt like she couldn't breathe. 51% of Morrison Construction meant she now controlled the company that had been the foundation of the Morrison family's wealth for 3 generations. Uncle Frank was the first to speak. Thomas, there must be some mistake. Maya is Robert's eldest biological child. Thomas interrupted firmly. Which brings me to the next section of the will, which Robert specifically requested I read in full. He cleared his throat and began to read in Robert's own words. To my family, friends, and anyone who may question the provisions of this will, I want to make several things absolutely clear. Maya Morrison is my daughter, my biological daughter, born from my relationship with her mother, Sarah, in 1996. Due to circumstances at the time, Maya was raised believing another man was her father, but she has always been my flesh and blood, my firstborn child, and the light of my life. Maya has demonstrated throughout her life the qualities I most value: integrity, loyalty, compassion, and strength. She has faced exclusion and dismissal from some family members with grace and dignity. She has built her own successful career without asking for handouts or leveraging the Morrison name. Most importantly, she has loved this family unconditionally, even when that love was not fully returned. I am leaving Maya controlling interest in Morrison Construction, not just because she is my daughter, but because she is the person best equipped to lead this company into the future. She understands our values, our commitment to quality, and our responsibility to our employees and community. She has the vision and the heart to ensure that Morrison Construction continues to build not just structures, but lives and communities. 2. Derek and Amanda, I want you to know that I love you completely, and I am proud of the people you have become. But leadership isn't inherited. It's earned. Maya has earned the right to lead this family's legacy forward. I trust that you will support her, work with her, and remember that your strength lies in unity, not division. To anyone who might consider challenging this will or questioning Maya's place in this family, let me be unequivocally clear. Maya Morrison is my daughter, my heir, and my choice. She has my complete confidence and my unconditional love. The Morrison family's greatest asset was never our money or our business. It was our capacity to love and support each other. I pray that my children will honor that legacy above all others. The silence that followed was deafening. Maya stared at Thomas, trying to process what she'd just heard. Her father hadn't just left her money. He'd left her a company, a responsibility, and a public declaration of her worth that no one could ever question again. Derek was the first to break the silence. Maya, he said quietly. Congratulations. Amanda nodded, though Maya could see the complexity of emotions playing across her face. "Dad made the right choice," she said. And Maya could tell she was trying to mean it. But not everyone in the room was as accepting. Uncle Frank stood up abruptly. "This is ridiculous. Maya doesn't know anything about running a construction company. She's a graphic designer, for God's sake." "Frank," Patricia said sharply, "sit down." "No, I won't sit down. 3 generations of Morrison men built that company, and now it's being handed over to someone who's never even worked there?" Maya found her voice. "Actually, Uncle Frank, I worked at Morrison Construction every summer from the time I was 16. I know the business better than you think." "Knowing and running are 2 different things," Frank shot back. "Derek has an MBA and 15 years of operational experience. Amanda understands real estate and development. What do you have?" Maya felt the familiar anger rising, but this time it was different. This time she wasn't fighting for acceptance. She was defending her right to what her father had chosen to give her. "I have Dad's trust," she said simply. "And if that's not enough for you, then maybe you need to ask yourself why Dad didn't leave the company to you." The barb hit its mark. Frank's face reddened, and several other family members shifted uncomfortably. Maya had never spoken to Frank like that before, but something had fundamentally changed in her. She was no longer the uncertain girl seeking approval. She was Robert Morrison's chosen heir, and she was going to act like it. Thomas cleared his throat. "There are additional provisions in the will that address operational concerns. Robert established a transition plan that includes Derek and Amanda in key leadership roles, with Maya as CEO, but with a board structure that ensures collaborative decision-making." He handed Maya a sealed envelope. "Robert also left you this personal letter, to be read privately." Maya took the envelope with trembling hands, feeling the weight of her father's final words to her. "If there are no other immediate questions," Thomas continued, "I suggest we schedule individual meetings to discuss the specific details of each bequest. This is a significant transition, and it will take time to implement properly." As the room began to empty, Derek approached Maya. "Can we talk privately?" Maya nodded, and they stepped into Robert's old office. Now her office, she realized with a start. The familiar space looked the same as it always had. Diplomas and awards on the walls, photos of construction projects, and prominently displayed pictures of all 3 of his children at various ages. "Maya," Derek began, then stopped, running, his hands through his hair. "I don't even know where to start." "Start with the truth," Maya said. "How do you really feel about this?" Derek was quiet for a long moment, staring out the window at the Chicago skyline dotted with buildings Morrison Construction had helped create. "Honestly, part of me is hurt. Part of me feels like Dad didn't trust me to lead the company I've worked for my entire adult life." He turned to face her. "But a bigger part of me knows he was right." Maya was surprised by his candor. "You want to know the truth, Maya? I've been coasting, relying on the Morrison name, on Dad's reputation, on the assumption that I'd inherit everything eventually. I never pushed myself to really excel because I thought my birthright was guaranteed." "Derek, no, let me finish. You, on the other hand, have had to prove yourself every single day. You've built your own career, earned your own success, and still shown up for this family even when we made you feel unwelcome. Dad saw that. I'm starting to see it too." Maya felt tears threatening again. "I don't want this to destroy our relationship. I meant what I said at the hospital. You're my brother, and I love you." Derek smiled, and for the first time in years, it looked completely genuine. "I love you too, sis, and I want to help you succeed. We can make this work, all 3 of us together." Amanda appeared in the doorway, looking hesitant. "Am I interrupting?" "Come in," Maya said. "We're just figuring out how to move forward." Amanda entered and sat down heavily in one of the leather chairs facing the desk. "I owe you an apology, Maya. A real one. I've been threatened by you for years. and I let that fear make me cruel. Amanda, you don't have to. Yes, I do. I've spent so much time worried about proving I belonged in this family that I forgot you were fighting the same battle, except you were fighting it alone, and I was making it harder for you. Maya reached across the desk and took Amanda's hand. We're sisters. Real sisters. In every way that matters. I know. And I want to be better at that. I want us to be a real team. Over the next hour, the three siblings talked more honestly than they had in years. They discussed the challenges of running Morrison Construction, the pressure from extended family members who might try to cause problems, and their shared desire to honor Robert's legacy. There's something else we need to talk about, Derek said eventually. The family reaction. Uncle Frank isn't going to be the only one with concerns. Some of the older relatives are going to see this as an outsider taking over, regardless of the biology. Let them, Maya said firmly. Dad made his choice, and he made it clear. I'm not going to spend my energy trying to convince people who've already decided not to accept me. Amanda smiled. Look at you, getting all badass. I like this version of Maya. I've always been badass, Maya replied with a grin. I just hid it better before. That evening, Maya sat alone in her apartment, finally ready to read Robert's personal letter. She poured herself a glass of the expensive wine Derek had given her as a congratulations gift and settled into her favorite chair. The letter was written in Robert's familiar handwriting, shakier than usual, but still distinctly his. My dearest, Maya, if you're reading this, then I'm gone, and you're probably feeling overwhelmed by everything that's happened. I want you to know that every decision I made was deliberate and considered. You are not inheriting Morrison Construction by accident or sentiment. You're inheriting it because you're the right person to lead it. I know there will be people who question your qualifications, your experience, your right to be there. Let me tell you something I learned a long time ago. The people who belong somewhere never have to convince anyone of it. They just belong. You belong, Maya. You always have. Your mother and I made mistakes when you were young. We thought we were protecting you by keeping the truth about your parentage secret. But I realize now that we were protecting ourselves from difficult conversations and complicated situations. You deserve to know from the beginning that you were my daughter in every possible way. You have something your brother and sister are still learning. The ability to succeed without taking credit from others, to lead without diminishing those around you, and to love without conditions. Those qualities will serve you well as you take on this responsibility. Morrison Construction is more than a business, Maya. It's a legacy of building things that last, of providing good jobs for good people, and of contributing to the communities we serve. But more than that, it's proof that when people work together with integrity and purpose, they can create something bigger than themselves. I'm not worried about your ability to run the company. I'm excited about what you'll do with it. I suspect you'll take Morrison Construction places Derek and Amanda and I never imagined. Don't be afraid to make it your own. Remember that your greatest strength has always been your heart. Don't let the business world make you cynical or hard. Lead with compassion, but don't mistake kindness for weakness. You are stronger than you know, smarter than you realize, and more loved than you can imagine. Take care of Derek and Amanda. They're good people who sometimes make bad choices out of fear. Help them be better. And take care of Patricia. She's been a wonderful mother to you, and she'll need your support in the days ahead. Most importantly, take care of yourself. Build a life that makes you happy. Find someone who loves you the way you deserve to be loved. Have children who will carry forward the best parts of our family's story. You are my greatest accomplishment, Maya. Not the buildings I've constructed, or the business I've built, but the woman you've become. I am so proud to be your father. All my love. Always, Dad P.S. Check the safe behind the Monet painting in my home office. The combination is your birthday. Month, day, year. There are some things in there I want you to have. Maya was sobbing. By the time she finished the letter, but they were tears of gratitude rather than grief. Robert had given her more than a company or money. He'd given her the confidence to claim her place in the world without apology. 2 days later, Maya used the combination Robert had provided to open the safe in his home office. Inside, she found her birth certificate, her real birth certificate, listing Robert Morrison as her father. There were also dozens of photos of her from throughout her childhood, with notes in Robert's handwriting describing his pride in her accomplishments. At the bottom of the safe was a small jewelry box containing a locket that had belonged to Robert's mother, but the most surprising discovery was a folder labeled Maya's business plan. Inside were detailed notes about Morrison Construction's future, specifically outlining Robert's vision for expanding into sustainable construction and green building practices. At the bottom of the folder was a note. "I know you'll take the company in directions I never could. This is just a starting point. Make it yours. Dad." Maya realized that Robert had been preparing her for this role for longer than any of them had understood. The casual conversations about the business, the summers working at various job sites, the questions about her opinions on company decisions. It had all been part of a long-term plan to prepare her for leadership. As Maya sat in Robert's office, her office, reading through his notes and recommendations, she felt a sense of purpose settling over her. This wasn't just about inheriting money or proving she belonged. This was about taking responsibility for something bigger than herself and using that responsibility to create positive change. The phone rang, interrupting her thoughts. It was Thomas Brennan, the family attorney. "Maya, I hope I'm not calling too late. I wanted to discuss the transition timeline with you. There are some legal formalities we need to complete before you can officially take control of the company." "Of course. What do we need to do?" "Well, there's one more thing from your father's will that I haven't shared yet. He anticipated that there might be resistance to some of his decisions. He included provisions for handling any legal challenges to the will, and he also established a trust structure that protects the company during the transition period." Maya felt a chill. "Are you expecting legal challenges? Let's just say your father was very thorough in protecting your interests. We'll meet tomorrow to go over all the details. But Maya, you should know that Robert made it virtually impossible for anyone to successfully contest his decisions." After hanging up, Maya realized that the battle for her place in the Morrison family was far from over. But for the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid of the fight. She was ready for it. 6 months after Robert's death, Maya stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of her corner office, watching the Chicago skyline emerge from the morning fog. Morrison Construction had secured 3 major contracts in the past month alone, including a groundbreaking sustainable housing development. That would be the company's first carbon-neutral project. The transformation hadn't been easy. There had been challenges from extended family members, skepticism from longtime employees, and moments when Maya questioned whether she was truly ready for the enormous responsibility Robert had placed on her shoulders. But with Derek and Amanda's support, and guided by her father's detailed transition plans, she had not just maintained Morrison Construction's reputation, she had elevated it. "Knock, knock," Derek called from the doorway, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "Got a minute for your VP of Operations?" Maya smiled and gestured to the seating area where she and her siblings now held their weekly strategy meetings. The formal hierarchy of the company placed Maya as CEO, Derek as VP of Operations, and Amanda as VP of Development, but in practice, they functioned as a true partnership. "How did the site visit go yesterday?" Maya asked, accepting the coffee gratefully. "Better than expected. The Green Valley project is actually ahead of schedule, and the energy efficiency numbers are exceeding our projections by 12%. Derek settled into his chair with obvious satisfaction. "The crew is really buying into the sustainable construction methods. Jim Rodriguez told me yesterday that he's never been prouder to wear a Morrison hard hat." Maya felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the coffee. Jim Rodriguez had been with Morrison Construction for 15 years and was respected by everyone on the team. His endorsement meant more than any business magazine profile ever could. Speaking of pride, Derek continued, "Did you see the Tribune article this morning?" Maya shook her head, and Derek pulled out his phone to read. Morrison Construction, under the leadership of CEO Maya Morrison, is revolutionizing Chicago's construction industry with innovative sustainable building practices and a commitment to community development that honors the company's 3-generation legacy while boldly embracing the future. Not bad press, Maya admitted, though she still felt uncomfortable with public attention. Not bad. Maya, we've gotten more positive coverage in the past 6 months than we did in the previous 5 years combined. You're not just maintaining Dad's legacy, you're expanding it. Amanda burst through the office door, practically vibrating with excitement. Emergency meeting. Drop everything. Maya and Derek exchanged amused glances. Amanda's dramatic entrances had become a regular part of their workdays. "What's the crisis this time?" Derek asked. "Did another major developer try to poach our best foreman?" "Better. Way better." Amanda threw herself into a chair and pulled out a thick manila folder. "Remember the Chicago Sustainability Council contract we submitted a bid for 3 months ago? The one for the new community center and affordable housing development on the south side?" Maya nodded. It was a project they'd all wanted desperately, a chance to use Morrison Construction's resources to address real community needs while showcasing their sustainable building expertise. "We got it," Amanda announced, her grin stretching from ear to ear. "All of it. The community center, the affordable housing, and they want us to lead the development of their model sustainable neighborhood program." Maya stared at her sister. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious. It's a 2-year project worth $12 million. And Maya, they specifically requested Morrison Construction because of our commitment to community-centered development and environmental responsibility." Derek let out a whoop that could probably be heard 3 floors down. Maya felt tears pricking her eyes. This was exactly the kind of project Robert had dreamed about in his notes. Construction that didn't just build structures, but built communities. "There's more," Amanda continued. "The project includes a training program for local residents to learn construction skills. We'd be hiring and training people from the neighborhood, giving them real career opportunities in the trades." Maya had to sit down. "This is incredible. This is everything Dad wanted Morrison Construction to become." "This is everything you've made Morrison Construction become," Derek corrected gently. "Maya, 18 months ago, we never would have even qualified for this kind of contract. We didn't have the sustainable expertise. We didn't have the community relationships. And honestly, we didn't have the vision." Amanda nodded enthusiastically. "The council representative told me that our proposal wasn't just the most technically sound. It was the most innovative and community-focused bid they'd ever received. She said it was clear that Morrison Construction under Maya's leadership represented a new generation of socially responsible development." Maya walked back to the windows, looking out at the city where she'd grown up feeling like an outsider. Now she was helping to shape its future, using the company her father had built to create opportunities for other people who might feel displaced or overlooked. "We need to call a company meeting," she said finally. "Everyone deserves to hear about this project, and we need to start planning for the expansion we'll need to handle this workload." "Already scheduled for this afternoon," Amanda said smugly. "I may have been a little confident about our chances." As Derek and Amanda left to prepare for the company meeting, Maya remained at the window, thinking about the journey that had brought her to this moment. 2 years ago, she had been the family outsider, tolerated but not truly accepted, building a freelance career while wondering where she really belonged. Now she was not only accepted, but respected, leading a company that was making a real difference in people's lives. The irony wasn't lost on her. She had finally found her place in the Morrison family by becoming the person she was always meant to be, rather than trying to fit into someone else's expectations. Her phone buzzed with a text from Patricia. "Saw the news about the community center project. Robert would be so proud. Dinner Sunday? I'm making your favorite pot roast. Maya smiled and texted back. Wouldn't miss it. Can Derek and Amanda come too? Of course. We're family. The simple phrase carried weight that would have been impossible 2 years earlier. Maya was no longer fighting for her place at the family table. She was helping to set it. That afternoon's company meeting was held in the main conference room, with Morrison Construction's 43 employees packed in to hear about the new project. Maya looked out at faces she'd come to know well over the past months: skilled craftspeople, project managers, administrative staff, and the core group of foremen who'd been with the company since Robert's early days. Before we talk about our new project, Maya began, I want to thank all of you for your patience and support during this transition period. I know it wasn't easy to adjust to new leadership, and I know some of you had concerns about the direction the company might take. Jim Rodriguez, the respected foreman Derek had mentioned, spoke up from the back of the room. Maya, I think I speak for everyone when I say you've earned our respect. This company feels more like a family now than it has in years. A chorus of agreement rose from the group, and Maya felt overwhelmed by the acceptance and support. That means everything to me, she said. And it brings me to our announcement. Morrison Construction has been selected for the Chicago Sustainability Council's Southside Community Development Project. The room erupted in cheers and applause. Maya waited for the noise to die down before continuing. This is a $12 million, 2-year project that will include a community center, affordable housing units, and a neighborhood sustainability pilot program. But more than that, it includes a commitment to hire and train local residents, creating real career opportunities in our industry. Sarah Chen, one of the project managers, raised her hand. Maya, what kind of training program are we talking about? We're partnering with the local community college to create a comprehensive construction trades program. Participants will work on actual project sites while earning certifications in carpentry, electrical work, plumbing, and sustainable building techniques. Morrison Construction will guarantee job interviews for everyone who completes the program. The room buzzed with excited conversations. Maya could see people already thinking about the logistics, the opportunities, and the impact this could have on both the company and the community. This is exactly the kind of work Morrison Construction should be doing, called out Maria Santos, one of the newer hires. Building communities, not just buildings. That's the goal, Maya agreed. My father always said that our greatest asset wasn't our equipment or our contracts. It was our ability to make a positive impact on people's lives. This project lets us do that on a scale we've never attempted before. After the meeting, as employees filtered out in small groups discussing the new project, Derek and Amanda stayed behind with Maya. You know what Dad would say if he could see this? Amanda asked. What? He'd say you're not just continuing his legacy, you're completing it. Maya felt the truth of those words settle into her bones. For so many years, she had focused on proving she belonged, on earning acceptance, on finding her place. But standing in this room, surrounded by people who respected her leadership and excited about work that would genuinely improve lives, Maya realized she had found something more valuable than acceptance. She had found purpose. 3 months later, Maya stood on the construction site of the Southside Community Center, wearing a hard hat with Morrison Construction, CEO, printed on it. Around her, a diverse crew of workers, some longtime Morrison employees, others recent graduates of the training program, were raising the walls of what would become a hub for community activities, job training, and social services. Derek approached, carrying the architectural plans and grinning broadly. Maya, you need to see this. We're not just on schedule, we're ahead of it, and the budget projections are looking even better than we hoped. The sustainable systems are performing beautifully, Amanda added, joining them. The solar panel installation is generating more energy than projected, and the rainwater collection system is exceeding capacity estimates. Maya looked around at the bustling construction site, then beyond it to the neighborhood where families were already beginning to move into the first completed affordable housing units, Children played in the new playground that Morrison Construction had built as part of the community space development. "You know what the best part is?" Maya said to her siblings. "This morning, Mrs. Rodriguez, Jim's wife, told me that their son wants to apply for our next training program class. She said he's never seen his father as proud of his work as he's been on this project." Derek's expression grew serious. "Maya, can I tell you something?" "Always." "When Dad first told us you were inheriting the company, part of me was worried that you'd want to prove yourself by changing everything, making it all about your vision instead of honoring what came before." Maya waited, sensing there was more. "But what you've done is so much better than that. You've taken everything good about Morrison Construction and made it bigger, more meaningful, more connected to what really matters. You didn't just inherit Dad's company, you fulfilled its potential." Amanda nodded. "And you did it while making us better too. I've learned more about real leadership in the past year working with you than I did in my entire business career before." Maya felt tears threatening, but they were happy tears. "We did it together. All three of us. And Dad's legacy isn't just the company anymore. It's the way we've learned to be family to each other." As the sun set over the Chicago skyline, painting the construction site in golden light, Maya Morrison stood with her brother and sister, watching their crew finish another day of building something that would last. She thought about the girl she'd been 2 years ago. Uncertain, seeking approval, always wondering if she truly belonged. That girl seemed like a stranger now. Maya had discovered that belonging wasn't something you earned from other people. It was something you created by being authentically yourself and using your gifts to make the world a little better. The Morrison family had always been in the business of building. But under Maya's leadership, they weren't just constructing buildings anymore. They were building community, building opportunity, building bridges between people who might otherwise never connect. They were building a legacy that would have made Robert Morrison proud, not because it preserved the past unchanged, but because it honored the past by creating a better future. As Maya drove home that evening, she passed a billboard advertising the grand opening of the Southside Community Center. At the bottom, in smaller print, it read, "Built by Morrison. Construction, building communities, building dreams, building tomorrow." Maya smiled, thinking about the family dinner planned for that weekend. Patricia was cooking, Derek was bringing his famous dessert, Amanda was excited to share news about her latest development project, and Maya would update everyone on the SAW company's newest sustainable building innovations. They were a family now in ways they'd never been before, not because of shared blood or legal documents, but because they'd chosen each other, supported each other, and built something meaningful together. Robert Morrison's will had done more than distribute his assets. It had revealed the truth about what family really means, and in doing so, it had given Maya not just an inheritance, but a foundation for the rest of her life. The foundation was strong, and Maya Morrison was just getting started building on it.